Sulla was born into a world of shadows and ambition, the son of a patrician family fallen from grace, a family whose name carried the weight of history, yet none of its influence. Rome in his youth was a city of grandeur and corruption, a republic whose heart beat with the pulse of ambition, rivalry, and blood. He grew up with the stories of his ancestors, tales of Rome's glory, the conquest of distant lands, and the rise and fall of its leaders. These stories whispered in the corridors of faded palaces and over the flicker of oil lamps instilled in him a vision that Rome would bend to the will of those daring enough to seize it. Ambition for Sulla was not merely a desire. It was the very air he breathed. The early days of his life shaped the man who would become both feared and revered. He entered the military as a young man, driven by the hunger to restore his family's honor and to carve his own place in the annals of history. Rome was embroiled in wars on multiple fronts, and the young Sulla found himself amidst the storm. The Samnite Wars, brutal and unyielding, became his proving ground. In the rugged hills of southern Italy, he learned the harsh realities of command, the cruelty of battle, and the necessity of cunning. His mind was as sharp as his sword, and soon whispers of his prowess began to circulate among the legions. His soldiers respected him, not merely for his bravery, but for the clarity of his strategies, the precision of his planning, and the fearlessness that radiated from his every action. Rome, however, was a city of politics as brutal as its battlefields. Sulla navigated this treacherous landscape with a tactician's mind. His ambition led him into the Senate, where words were weapons and alliances were forged and broken with the ease of a coin flipped in the air. He understood the fragility of power, the fleeting loyalty of men, and the necessity of ruthlessness. As the Marian reforms reshaped the Roman army, promising wealth and land to the loyal, Sulla's vision diverged sharply. He saw not just a military force, but a political instrument, one that could bend the republic to his will. His eyes were set on a prize that many deemed unreachable, the absolute control of Rome itself. The social war erupted, a tempest that would define Sulla's rise. Italian allies, long treated as subjects rather than citizens, rose against Rome, demanding their rights. The conflict was bloody and unforgiving, yet Sulla's brilliance shone. He led his legions with a precision that bordered on artistry, crushing rebellion after rebellion, demonstrating both his tactical genius and his unyielding discipline. His victories were more than military triumphs. They were statements of intent, declarations that the young general was a force to be reckoned with, one whose ambitions reached beyond the ordinary bounds of Roman expectation. The world of Rome was on the edge of transformation. Political rivalries between Sulla and Gaius Marius, another general of legendary repute, festered like a wound refusing to heal. Both men were visionaries, yet their visions collided violently. Marius represented the populist ideal, the champion of the people, and the reformer of armies. Sulla, in contrast, embodied the old order, the patrician tradition, the belief that Rome's strength lay in discipline and hierarchy. Their animosity would erupt into one of the most shocking events in Roman history, Sulla's unprecedented march on Rome. The city had never seen a Roman army return to its gates under the command of a Roman general against the Republic itself. It was a gamble of audacity and defiance, a gamble that would redefine what power in Rome could mean. Crossing the sacred boundary of the Pomerium with his legions, Sulla ignited terror and awe. The streets of Rome, usually a theater of politics and debate, became a stage for violence and intimidation. Senators fled, their robes of office no protection against the thunder of marching boots and the glint of steel. Sulla's forces moved with purpose, a storm of discipline and ruthless intent. Yet despite the chaos, Sulla's mind remained focused. He was not merely a conqueror, he was a reformer, seeking to reshape the very structure of power that governed the city he now held. The subsequent civil wars were a crucible of blood and strategy. Sulla's campaigns against the followers of Marius were relentless, spanning from the streets of Rome to the distant provinces. He demonstrated a calculated brutality, a willingness to punish his enemies with a severity that was both feared and respected. Prescriptions, lists of those condemned without trial, became instruments of terror and control. Wealth, titles, and lives were seized, redistributed to cement loyalty and authority. In this storm of blood and ambition, Sulla's vision for Rome crystallized. The Republic must be controlled, the Senate strengthened, and disorder eliminated at any cost. Amidst the carnage, Sulla's personal narrative intertwined with Rome's destiny. His return to the east to confront Mithridates of Pontus showed a different facet of his genius. Here, strategy met diplomacy, courage met cunning. The Pontic Wars tested his command in foreign lands, where terrain, culture, and politics presented as many challenges as enemy armies. Yet, time and again, Sulla adapted, turning apparent disadvantages into opportunities. Victory after victory, he expanded Rome's influence, demonstrating that his genius was not bound to the streets of the capital, but stretched across the known world. Even in triumph, Sulla's character was complex, a blend of discipline and indulgence, ambition and calculation. He wielded power with precision, aware that the line between reverence and hatred was thin. His reforms of the constitution were not merely acts of governance, they were declarations of his understanding of human nature. Senators were restored to prominence, judicial procedures codified, and the balance of power tilted in favor of those who, like him, understood the machinery of control. Yet he remained ever vigilant, knowing that Rome's appetite for change could quickly turn against any man who dared to shape its fate. Sulla's final years were marked by a paradoxical tranquility. Having conquered Rome, having imposed his vision, he retired voluntarily from power, a decision as shocking as his rise. He withdrew to his villa, leaving behind a city forever altered, a republic forever changed. History remembers him as a general, a dictator, a reformer, and a man who walked the line between genius and tyranny. His legacy was a testament to the power of will, strategy, and ambition, a reminder that in Rome, destiny favored not merely the brave, but the cunning, the relentless, and the visionary. In reflecting upon Sulla, one cannot separate the man from the myth, the history from the legend. He conquered not merely armies or cities, but the very essence of power in Rome, leaving a mark that would echo through centuries. The republic he reshaped would rise and fall under the weight of its own contradictions, yet the shadow of Sulla's ambition lingered, a cautionary tale and an inspiration. In the end, his story is not merely one of conquest, but of understanding the delicate balance between fear and respect, law and violence, tradition and transformation. Sulla, the man who conquered Rome, not just with sword and strategy, but with vision, audacity, and an unyielding grasp of destiny, leaving behind a city forever altered and a world ever watching the dance of ambition and power. The echoes of Sulla's campaigns reverberated across generations. Future generals, senators, and rulers would study his maneuvers, his prescriptions, his political cunning. Julius Caesar would later draw lessons from Sulla's audacity, understanding that Rome could be shaped not only by armies, but by the will of one determined man. The Republic, though resilient, had been forever tested, and in its cracks, ambition found new avenues. Sulla's life became a narrative of extremes, a fusion of historical fact and legend, teaching that power demanded not only strength and intelligence, but also the courage to defy tradition when necessary. And so, as the sun set on the dictator's villa, the city of Rome looked outward, scarred, but enduring, carrying within it the seeds of future empire, forever shadowed by the man who dared to seize it.